And welcome everybody into the Two Guys and Beer podcast, upgraded studio performance, new features, Lagunitas today. That's nothing else new at all. It's just the beer. Now we got a new table, Shawn. John did a lot of painstaking work. And when I mean painstaking work, he put in the back-breaking work to it.
Yeah.
I just helped put it together when it's here.
It was ridiculous doing this thing. Keep in mind, I had this great idea, like, oh, Andy, we should get this new table, so we can look more like a professional podcast. And he's like, yeah, great. Sounds cool,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Andy, I'm going to get this spool. I'm going to make it, epoxy it. It's going to look good. I'm going to take a torch to it and burn it.
It's all coming together.
It's going to look vintage, like our logo.
Mm-hmm.
The brown and the yellows and the distressed look of our logo. I mean, this is going to be good. Saloon-style, Old West.
Absolutely.
Worldly brewery. Well, in the process of building this table that you see before you, keep in mind, I've never used epoxy before in my entire life, so I had not a clue what I was getting into.
Those that are out there now that have used epoxy are like, oh.
So please do comment in the comments on how retarded I was when I attempted to do this. Well, we can't say retarded anymore, can we? We're in this
Silly.
day and age. How silly it was. So anyways, I sanded it down. I had the torch. I burnt it. Sent some photos to Andy. Hey, what do you think so far? Looks great. Let's keep on going. So I keep on going. I get the epoxy, start mixing it, and I'm starting to pour it on this table. And the whole plan was to fill in these cracks on the board just to make it nice and smooth. Poured the first little 16 ounces I mixed up on there. I'm like, wow, this is looking great. Everything's going good. Mixed up another one, poured another one on there. Wow, this is going to be so cool. This is easy. 10 minutes later, drip, 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 drip. It found its way through the cracks on the underside, and it's dripping down below. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do? Didn't know what to do. Came up with a few ideas. Took it apart, flipped it over. I'm like, well, I'm going to take some silicone and run it in these cracks underneath to stop it from leaking.
Brilliant.
Seems like a good idea.
There we go.
Not quite,
little correction of errors, and we're good to go.
Not quite the duct tape of Red Green Show. If everybody remember watching the old Red Green Show.
If they can't find you handsome, they can at least find you handy.
I'm neither nor. So we put the silicone in there, let it sit for a day. And then I took sheathing tape because, as of course the old Google machine said, sheathing tape doesn't stick to epoxy, and that's the tape everybody uses.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So I started taping the cracks underneath after it was siliconed. I taped the edges with a little lip on it, so the epoxy can sit.
Tape the crack out of it?
I did. Poured the next batch. I'm like, oh, it's holding. Everything's good. 30 minutes later, drip, drip. Drip. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. So I'm taping more and taping more. I've got the whole underside taped. I've got everything taped on this thing. I keep pouring. Finally, I gave up. I'm like, it's just not going to hold tape or hold the epoxy in. I don't know what I'm doing. This is the stupidest thing I've ever done, Shawn. I'm telling Andy, why did I do this? This is stupid. I should have just burnt it and put urethane on it and called it good. But nope. Had to do this. So I came with the solution. I'm just going to try to cover each board with epoxy to make it look glass. And that worked pretty well until you realize not every one of these boards on these old electrical spools are perfectly flat. So it wouldn't stay on the edges.
It seems weird that they wouldn't be made for precision.
No. You think this would be some
wooden transport.
You think this would be like some precise machining of wood here.
Right.
It is not.
No, it was probably put together by guys on work release.
Oh, yeah.
Or sentenced to serve from the jail.
Probably.
The quality standards were probably not right at the top of the list.
They should probably hone their skills a little bit for these instances when people like me come up with these ridiculous ideas.
Exactly.
Probably after we had a couple beers.
Yeah.
So I got most of it covered. There's a couple little spots on the edges that aren't quite covered in epoxy due to science and stuff and leveling, and I'm sure Newton's law or whatever. So anyways, this was the end up front. So there's a couple spots that don't have a little bit of epoxy on it. There's nothing I could do about that. But it turned out all right until I had to flip the table over and then take all the tape off. The tape that
It
supposedly doesn't stick.
No, it doesn't stick. It's
no,
fine. It's fine.
Oh, it's stuck.
It doesn't stick.
It's stuck. Oh, it's stuck. So then I spent about 4 hours with my multi-tool getting it off, the tape off. Then I resanded it, and then I urethaned the bottom, which you can't see, but the bottom looks nice in urethane. But that's kind of the short story of how we got to this new table here in the TG&B podcast studio here.
And I was only involved for just the reinstallation in here, which went really smooth as well. There's 3 of us, and we had almost had to call in more brain power. But I think that was only 2 hours of work to do that?
At least 2 hours.
That puts you close to a 40-hour work week on the project.
I think that's conservative. It took us 2 hours. It probably took us a little longer than 2, but. And we were sweating just putting this thing together. My gosh.
And at the time, we weren't even drinking beer. That's probably where we went wrong in the first place, is we didn't start by drinking beer.
Yeah. So all in told, there's probably 24 to 28 hours into this table. That's how ridiculous this project become. But, hey, it looks nice, man. It did turn out pretty good. So.
It looks fantastic. And we got kind of a little bit of a rearranging. We moved some things around the room a little bit, so we're a little bit more... just us and the beer. We can focus on the beer.
Just us and the beer.
Beer and the bullshit.
And the bullshit.
That's the key is to what we're doing here. That's we don't need to have all the technology right with us or whatever. So we've added some of that. We got nice new chairs, all sorts of stuff that we got going on.
And we have a spot for guests now. We have some guests that'll be on soon. We got everything set up for them.
We do have an additional mic. So if you're with a brewery, feel free to reach out. We'd love to be able to chat with you and have you on the podcast.
Tell your story. Tell all your people that follow your social media and go to your brewery.
Absolutely.
Your story out for everybody. So, yeah, that's kind of the story of that. Just one other quick note before we get into this great beer here that I've never tried. Andy thinks he's tried it. Brandon has agreed to come on to the show.
It's exciting news.
We just have to lock down the date. Hopefully we'll be recording on a day in October.
Yep.
So he'll be the first guest on. He's the home brewer that we've talked about probably on half of our 30 episodes.
At least 100%.
He's won. He swept the Anoka County Fair again this year with 6 awards. He took home 2 awards at the Minnesota State Fair, which is always the most visited state fair in the country. It's either Minnesota or Texas, vying for the top spot.
And Texas is over the course of 2.5 months or something ridiculous.
It's a lot longer than Minnesota. So
I'd like to go check it out sometime just to experience it. I'm a fair person. I like the atmosphere. Think the Minnesota Fair is just amazing. But I'd like to try the Texas one.
Just to see what the hubbub is.
I wonder what the craft beer profile is down there, if there's much.
That's what we have to find out.
It's going to be
Brandon knows.
It's going to be part of our world tour.
Yes,
that we embark on.
Management is still putting that together.
Exactly. Yeah, dates upcoming. It'll come into your city.
So yeah.
So Lagunitas is today. Yeah. As we kind of work our way into this, and I'm not necessarily trying to deflect away from any other conversation. We can get back to whatever it is, but if we can pop the top, then we can at least start drinking it.
Oh, that would be perfect. That would be perfect. A lot of talking with no drinking so far this episode.
Which actually, now that I have a bottle, I'm going to have to remember this for a future podcast. But we're given I don't even know, an apparatus, is that what you'd call it, to be able to put over the top of a bottle that it's supposed to aerate it as you pour it to make it taste more like a draft. So I guess it's supposed to taste different. I'm not really sure. Don't have it for this one, but in a future podcast, we'll do a kind of I don't know if reaction video is the right way to be able to put it. Maybe we could do it for that.
Do a react video to that.
And just kind of see, is this really a legit thing? You know what I mean? We'll pick a random beer and then we'll drink it straight out of the bottle, straight out of a glass, and then poured through said
tapper apparatus.
The tapparatus.
The tapparatus. There we go.
So yeah, we'll give that a shot at some point in time too, and see kind of what's going on and see if it works, if it does anything, or if it's just one of those hokey things that you spend $5 on at the fair.
Give it a shot.
Get as a free gift when you register for an event or something.
Yeah. I kind of beard all over myself over here when I opened this one up. I'm a little rusty with my bottle opener.
Well, we have been out for a few weeks, so We're got to get back into it a little bit here. Let's see here.
First impression of this IPA, it's pretty tasty. I like it. It goes down pretty smooth, man. It's not very strong at all for an IPA. Not too hoppy, not too much of anything.
Not too hoppy. I do get some malting through there. So, yeah. Let's see. What does it say on the side here? You are holding the gold standard of our hop-forward approach to brewing. Our flagship IPA, dreamed in California 30-odd years ago. We'll get into more of the details here in just a second. Amongst the redwoods, rugged coastlines, and rolling hills of Sonoma County. So we're going back to California again.
Northern California, huh? That's what it sounds like.
Exactly. Now brewed from Petaluma. Yeah, Petaluma is Petaluma. I
have not a clue where that is. I just heard redwood, so I was thinking Northern California up in that area.
I'm with you on that.
Never been there, but I'd like to go.
Petaluma or Petaluma? Maybe Petaluma?
Sure.
If you're from there, I apologize, and go ahead and comment and share it with your friends about how ridiculously bad I did that there. But they're brewing it from there to Chicago and beyond. And yes, somehow this particular bottle found its way into my really nice hands at this very moment.
Andy, you do have some good-looking hands over there. I'm just going to let you know. I mean, look at that.
I've dabbled in hand modeling a little bit, but I'm no David. Was it David Duchovny? What movie was that? He was a hand model.
I know him from The X-Files.
That's true.
That one show on Netflix where he's a struggling writer and he's a drunk.
Californication.
Yep.
That's I never watched X-Files, but I watched Californication, which was a phenomenal show. That was so
hilarious.
Good. For probably about I think it was like 5 seasons or something. Like 4 seasons were really good. The first season was absolutely amazing. But yeah, probably about 4 seasons were good, and it was kind of like, okay, let's land the plane here. I don't know where you're going.
It kind of started repeating itself like most shows.
Yeah, I think you kind of run out of. What are you doing for something new?
Right.
When you almost have to have a show that's like a procedural, where you can throw all sorts of different ideas out there, or like doctor shows.
Right.
You know what I mean? Something like that where you can constantly come up with new ideas. But when you get into something like that, like, all right, so how many wild, random trysts can he get into with all sorts of different women while talking about a book that he didn't write?
Yeah, you can only do so many episodes of that. So
exactly, how many times is that really hot wife of his, Natasha McElhone, I think is her name?
Sure,
the lady that's in there, or whatever. How many times is she going to come back after all of the shenanigans that he's getting into? But I don't know. If you've never seen it, I do recommend it. It's pretty good stuff. So,
Dream of Californication.
Great tune.
I like the Chili Peppers.
Tune. So Lagunitas, highly balanced, super drinkable, and it's got a little puppy dog on the front, as you can see on the box here in front of us.
It is highly balanced.
It is. It really is.
Definition is highly balanced.
And it does say next to the dog, it says doggone good. So I would support that as well. 6.2 alcohol by volume is what we're dealing with here.
You certainly can't tell by drinking that's a little bit higher content for a beer on average,
Yeah, but it's very smooth. It's a very drinkable beer. And I'm pretty sure that I had it on a cruise. I know that they have at least one of the cruise lines that I've been on has like they have like 2 or 3 different Lagunitas. So I'm pretty sure that I've had this particular one, but I know that I've had a couple of they had like a wheat one at one point in time. Sure. And it was very, very wheat. So if you don't like wheat, I don't remember what the name of it was, but there's a couple, 2, 3 of them that were on there. And I'm pretty sure this was one of them, but it's, yeah, I really like it. I think my brother-in-law is probably one of his favorite ones. So I'm going to definitely highly recommend, maybe I'll save a bottle out of there when we're done or something and let him have some of that. So, but yeah, so Lagunitas out of, what did he say was Petaluma?
That sounds close enough.
Yep, that's where brewed by the Lagunitas Brewing Company, McDowell Boulevard in Petaluma in California. So that's where our adventure is going to start. Northern California on the kitchen stove is where this entire shenanigans began. 1993.
Hopefully better than your kitchen stove that we had started that one time that we've talked about.
At some point in time, I need to actually we need to post that picture out there of the custom modifications.
I think we did.
That we get that out there? Okay, yeah, perfect. I know that it came up. We talked about it at one point, and it popped up on my Facebook like the next day. So kind of an interesting thing. But, creativity, solutions. I'm a solution-driven person.
Yes.
Sometimes the solution is just drinking more beer.
It's all about creativity. It certainly didn't turn out like this.
Absolutely.
It did taste pretty tasty.
It was pretty solid.
Not this.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, this is pretty good. This is better than I think most IPAs we've had on our show, to be honest with you, because it is pretty smooth and easy drinking.
It is a very good one. Yeah.
Highly balanced, like it says. Not to get off track here, but go ahead. What else we got on this?
No, I'm with you. I like to discuss this as well. I'm more filling the time with my randomness.
Good stuff.
If you haven't already got this, go out and get some. I think you can get it not everywhere, but like fairly not. Yeah, I don't know what I'm really trying to say. Like, if you go to like a small town, really small liquor store, probably not going to, because they're going to have most of the standards,
Right.
and then only a handful of craft beers. But if you go to like a decent sized liquor store that has like a pretty wide selection, Lagunitas is going to be in there somewhere.
It's fairly
It's
common.
one of the it's one of the more out there.
For a craft beer, it's out there. It's more accessible than your local brewery down the street, So, yeah, if you find it, get some.
So what they have on here for different sayings, to quote our brew monster is the way that they put it. Lagunitas is made up of all kinds of creeds, punk rockers, misfits, Ivy Leaguers, weirdos, Waldos, sparkle ponies, musicians, and everything in between. Just a pack of stray dogs that found, despite our vast and wild differences, the love and respect for the freedom to be different. And that's what brought them all together and made it work. So wide cross section of people, which I would say, yes, it is kind of the thing. And we hear that from, a lot of different breweries. Like, we're set out to make it the most unique the way we do it and be driven. The kind of a lot of the generic buzzwords you hear from most every brewery. But I do like that, they definitely highlight that it's a very wide cross section of people, which I think that the craft beer industry is definitely like, you're going to get some straight laced people that suit and tie by day and craft beer by night, but you're also going to have people that are definitely more punk rockers or, sparkle ponies, musicians, what I mean? It's not just all right, well, craft beer, IPAs, what's those guys? Sure. I know that IPAs have had a long-standing ponytail, man bun type of tradition or, kind of a little bit of stereotype, but craft beer, I think it's all over the place, and I like that they kind of highlight everything with that.
Yeah, I would like to know exactly what a sparkle pony is.
I feel like I want to Google it, but at the same time I don't.
I don't want to see what pops up.
I feel like I need to have, this isn't a work computer that I'm working with, but at the same time I want to make sure that I'm safely disconnected from anything before I get too deep. And it's probably totally fine. Probably harmless.
It seems like something that should have been on the unicorn episode that we did.
Well, probably.
That's like a sparkle pony.
It kind of is. It really is.
Yeah.
So 1993, so you want to start a brewery in the kitchen in Northern California, the hamlet of Lagunitas. Tony McGee, Magee, Tony McGee, was crafting beers in a 5-gallon homebrew kit, which I have done. I have not done it to this level, clearly. Just the handful of ones that I've done. I actually have a kit out there in the entrance. I don't know if you've seen that. I think I need to throw it away, though, because I think probably the yeast is bad. Some of the ingredients are probably...
We should try again.
There we go. Maybe we could do that. That could be... We'll do that on a fast episode where we use time-lapse video of we just sit and drink the entire time while the boiling happens. Brandon needs to be there to supervise us. So, he started with the 5-gallon homebrew kit and then ruined Thanksgiving dinner, which made him take his hobby into a rented room behind the house of Richards in Forest Knolls, where he became started slinging beers at that point in time. So he basically wrecked Thanksgiving dinner with what he was doing. And then, nope, you can't do it here. You're out. And he went and started making it in the back room of a business already. So kind of created his own business just because of, what it was supposed to be. 95, the IPA is born. This particular IPA, I believe, is the one that they're referring to. To stand out among the sea of pale ales in the mid-90s, he decided to develop a New World spin on an Old World style, the India Pale Ale, which he shortened to IPA. Pilates at the time couldn't handle the hoppiness, or palates at the time, not Pilates. Palates is how that's pronounced.
Pilates, huh?
Pilates. It couldn't handle the hoppiness, but Tony had a hunch that it was the next big thing, so he went ahead and he just stuck with it. over the next handful of years, the next decade from the 95 to 2005, quickly outgrew his spot in Forest Knolls and moved to Petaluma or Petaluma, depending on where you're from, or if you actually know how to pronounce it. I apologize, but it's fine. After a few years, he needed even more space and threw a party and told everyone that showed up to grab whatever wasn't bolted to the ground and walk it across the road to McDowell Street, where they still brew today. So,
Perfect.
I mean, if you're going to recruit people to move, you got to feed them beer. I mean, I feel like that's just standard, natural, what you have to do.
Well, it's usually what you do. Yeah, like you said, somebody comes over to help you erect a bin out there, you've got going on out there. You just bring a case of beer and people show up. Or you buy them dinner.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do something.
Or both. Most
Absolutely.
people, I think, prefer a case of beer, but,
Yeah. The last time that I helped somebody move wasn't even really so much move. It was more they had a mover that was moving them, and we were just basically helping move the heavy stuff to have it more accessible for said movers. So not a terribly large amount of work.
So
but
you moved it away from the wall or what?
Kinda. Well, we did move some stuff because they were actually moving some stuff out to the garage for a garage sale, and the movers weren't going to touch that. And then, they were just kind of getting rid of some stuff. And so we actually got some stuff. We have a really nice desk. Amanda has a nice desk. I'll show you maybe later at some point in time. Really, really, really nice desk. But it was very, very heavy. But it was still, I moved like maybe 10, 12 things, like big, heavy things that we had these arm straps to be able to move with.
Yeah,
if you don't have those, they're not super expensive. If you've ever had to move or if you're ever planning on moving ever again, buy those. I don't know if mega movers. I don't even know what they're necessarily called, but it's just like, it's these straps you just put big, thick straps you put around your shoulders. And then there's one that you kind of hook through and you kind of cinch it up and you just stand up and then you can lift incredible amounts of weight just casually with two people. And it makes it easy to hold on to. It's such a slick thing.
Nice.
If you're ever going to move, I highly recommend getting those. I wouldn't do anything without it. I'm not moving anytime soon, but my brother-in-law has them, and so I didn't need to buy them.
Sure.
But like I said, we didn't have to move all that many things, but the gentleman that we were helping out, they bought beer and food. Both, but Pete and Jen are fantastic. We were happy to be able to help and happy to be able to participate in any way we can. They're moving to Florida.
Oh, really?
The jealousy sets in sometimes.
Florida? What's down in Florida? Why are they moving to Florida?
Retirement.
Oh.
Yeah. So no longer working anymore. They're kind of wrapping things up and just going to not be in Minnesota all the time. I don't know that they're going to be snowbirds like my brother and sister-in-law are not, though, because they still come up and they're still around here, but they're actually moving to the same neighborhood down there. Wow. So because they're good friends with them. That's kind of where I think where that kind of started. So yeah, they're moving to that same neighborhood and they're just going to be retired and golf all day.
Well, congratulations to them.
I know.
Cheers to them.
We had cheers to Pete and Jen.
Yeah.
But yes, so if you're going to have people move for you, you have to provide something.
You do.
Case of beer, pizza, both.
All the above.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
100%. Anyway, so they moved to their new location, and then they started throwing parties in their employee loft.
It's even better.
That started at 420.
Better yet.
Which apparently raised some eyebrows. That was I can do it, but it gets way higher if I push it up there. But it not only raised some brows locally. There we go.
Tape.
There.
Hold it
up. But it also apparently attracted some attention from the local authorities. After a failed sting and a 20-day suspension, they installed a new line to bottle our undercover investigation shutdown ale. So, because why wouldn't you take that just in stride? Do the crime, do the time, get the bragging rights. That's what they say.
That's pretty hilarious. I thought that stuff was legal in California.
Well, this is also in 2005.
Oh, sure. So it might have been before its time.
Yeah. Now it probably is, encouraged, if anything else. But at that time, a little bit less so. So 2005 to 2009, they continue to grow. People are drinking more and more IPAs. They expanded from state to state, and their brand spanking new 80-barrel Rolex brew house started brewing up a wholly original little thing under the sun called a little something ale. And I want to say that's the wheat ale that I've had.
Sure, on
a little
the cruise,
something. Yes. Which is, it's good, but it's the wheat, it's very wheat forward for me. So it's good if you like, wheat beers and you're into
Prefer that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely recommend doing that. Beer Weasel Ron Lindenbush had one thought in 2009, we should throw a circus. So the beer circus was born. They opened up the Petaluma Tap Room and Beer Sanctuary, featuring live music every day, including some special shows at the new Lagunitas Amphitheater at the following year. So they got a lot going on at that point in time.
Well, it sounds like they have to have a lot of fun. Some 420, some circuses. What else? Need some beer.
Absolutely. I mean, because that's really what it's all about. It's having the good times. Having a good time. It's very musical today, isn't it?
Oh, that's Queen.
Yeah, it is.
I like Queen.
Great tune.
Queen.
2011, when our 250 barrel brew house, for those, again, we've talked many times about barrels. It was about a 30 gallon?
30 gallons
about 30 gallons on a
US
barrel.
gallon. 30 US gallons. Yep.
That's true, because we are kind of right in the face of this episode might actually be coming out during Oktoberfest,
right,
for those international viewers and or listeners on the podcast. So if you're international, also click on something and comment something to us, because that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, 100%. Are you going to Oktoberfest this year?
I'm going to Oktoberfest
Me
this
too.
year. Are you going? Leaving in 12 days, the jet plane is departing.
There we go.
Minneapolis, St.
I'll
Paul
be just a couple of
International.
days after that, so like 15 days. It's only 15. Good Lord, I have to start packing.
Leaving on the jet plane.
Don't know if I'll get back again. Okay, so
Karaoke is not our strong suit.
so that 250 barrel brew house, so 250 times 30 is a lot. Got hit by a storm in the Atlantic. They knew they weren't going to be able to brew their widely feared winter seasonal brew, Sugar. Yep. After a few flood calls, they put out a substitute to disappointed fans that was renamed very quickly Lagunitas Sucks. So they had an idea of what they wanted to do. Storm wrecked the entire thing. Let's put out a subpar item and name it after what people are going to say. Brilliant.
So they have a good time with this.
Lean into it, people. Just whatever it is, just lean into it. If this is going to be funny, there's two ways you can view things. People always say, like, it's not like life is, what do they say? 90%, like 10% what happens and 90% how you react to it.
Right.
I don't know. I might be off with the math.
It
Yogi
sounds
Berra
right.
didn't tell me the math at one point in time. But like, that's one of those things that like you have the option of like, okay, storm destroyed the thing. You can either fold up shop and be pissed and be mad and whatever, or you can just, you know what, let's do this, because what could go wrong? And if it does go wrong, well, that's a fun story too.
Right.
Because no, how many good stories come from the things that went right? I mean, yes, it's fun. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be like, hey, I went to Oktoberfest this fall. It was great. That's going to be
anyways,
but then it's going to be like, so we had like 7 liters of beer and me and Shawn were dancing on the table like they do in Germany. And we got kicked out and we went to another tent instead. These tents apparently can house like 4,000 to 6,000 people. It's a big tent.
Would we really call them tents? They're more like erector sets.
Temporary structures. Yeah. Full on buildings. Yeah. I think the tent I have has 4 to 6 people.
Yeah,
not
probably,
thousands. Yeah.
probably 4 to 6.
And it's mostly just like me, Amanda, and the dogs.
6 might be stretching it.
And actually, the 2 dogs is almost too much. So, as a process of expansion here, one of their guys, the main guy, I should say, Tony McGee, as we go back to Tony McGee, he's a native Chicagoan. He was looking for a way to be able to return home and some help from a local legend, Nick is what we're going to call him, because I'm looking at his name and it looks very Greek. There's a lot.
I like Nick.
I mean, I could give it a shot, but Mercopolis. We'll go with Mercopolis. Right. Nick is fine by me. He found our second home in Chicago's Pilsen neighborhood. So Lagunitas, Chicago was born. And then a few years later, a Lagunitas, Seattle. And so then they start, kind of looking at where else they're going to go. They started partnering with Heineken in 2015. And started to bring the hop forward IPAs beyond and bringing it to the world. all over the
Nice.
world. So at this point in time, now they're all over the place, firing up brew operations in UK, Amsterdam, Brazil, and more to bring fresh Lagunitas all over the place. 2018, they start using cannabis-infused hi-fi sessions, started to be able to bring that to what they're doing. And then in 2018, they did a refresher of IPAs and started doing a dry hopped, zero cal, zero carb, zero gluten sparkling beverage. That's a lot of zeros.
That does not sound good to me.
I worry about it being zero taste.
Yeah,
If you're from
that's-
Lagunitas, send me one so I can try it, because I don't know if I'll be able to find it in Minnesota. But I'm curious. I want to give it a shot. But I have my concerns.
On the surface, it does not sound very tasty.
Apparently became an employee favorite, though. Apparently Uber boosted productivity.
Okay.
Weird. You feed your people more beer.
Cool.
And so they were thinking they're going to try to do that. And so they do that. They called it the hoppy refresher. So, and then in 2020, they started to delve into more of the NA variety, and 2021 started doing some more teas at that point in time. So trying to do a lot of different stuff. And then in 2022, innovation is the name of the game at Lagunitas. They took a huge leap forward with the creation of our disorderly house of brewing right next to the tap room and beer sanctuary. And it's a place of wonder where the Lagunitas team of wizards can just tinker and just dream up the next big thing. So that's kind of like that's everything like from their website, the way that they do that. But kind of looking at their Wikipedia, it kind of talks a little bit about what their barrelage, because we talked about the 250 barrel brew house. It's fine to have a brew house, but if you have 250 barrel brew house, I'm guessing you're making more than 250 barrels a year. Maybe 250 barrels a week.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah.
So you start being able to make some production on that. So if you take a look at their Wikipedia, in 2004, they increased from 27,000 U.S. barrels in a year to 106,000 barrels.
Wow.
So that's quite the jump.
Yeah, it is.
In 2010, that was from 2004 to 2010. That's that time frame. So that's 6 years. They jumped in, what's that? 70, 80, 79,000 barrels. That's a lot.
That's pretty good.
March 2011, they had 92 employees, distribution in 32 states. And by 2012, they decided that's when they did the additional brewing capacity, $9.5 million, which brought their capacity to 600,000 barrels. So a lot that they had going on in that one. 2012, again, the Chicago that they were going to, it was a space that was owned by a film studio, Cinespace, for at least like 20 years. And so that's when they started being able to make beer there. And then 2014, they opened it as a tap room. And then, their Chicago brewery closed in 2024. So I think they just have the tap room there.
Oh.
So they don't actually brew in Chicago anymore, which is kind of interesting. You'd think you'd still be able to have that, but
especially as big as they are, all over the world, brewing everywhere. Yeah, that's a bummer they closed in Chicago. What I find interesting about all this information in this specific company is how creative they are.
yes.
Like losing the products at sea or the Atlantic because the storm couldn't get what they needed, and they just went on and made something else.
So 2015, we talked a little bit about Heineken getting involved and Heineken going, kind of worldwide to help expansion with that. Heineken at that point in time, because Heineken, the size that they are, their stake exceeded the 25% requirement that they had to stay below to be considered a craft brewery. So I would argue they're still a craft brewery. They're probably just not a microbrewery or, however you want to qualify that. But they had purchased 50% of Lagunitas in 2015.
Oh, okay.
So that's actually, was a purchased, or at least a not controlling stake, but, a pretty large stake, probably a controlling stake if, maybe Tony McGee had the other 50%. But in 2017, they bought the rest of it, becoming the sole owner. So now it's actually owned by Heineken.
Interesting.
But founder Tony McGee stayed on as CEO of Lagunitas with the intention of expanding distribution for Lagunitas itself. So they still kept him on, and he's still available, or not available, still involved with Lagunitas itself. So
sure. So
you
it's
know,
like
it's
a
kind of
different
you get the
division or a different department of
you
Heineken.
get the benefit of being part of the thing, but you can just kind of, all right, this is the idea that I have. Let's do it.
Wonder how much they paid him for it.
It
Probably
doesn't say
a few bucks, a couple bucks.
Yeah,
I'm sure,
it doesn't say, but I'd be willing to bet that it probably was a decent amount. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Let's see here. The most recent, let's see here. Where is it? It doesn't give me a year here, but the most recent information that they have, at least on their Wikipedia, the annual production volume, it is up to 916,420 barrels per year.
Wow.
So you're almost to 1 million barrels per year of this fine brew. I'm sure it's all of the brews altogether.
Everything they brew.
But that's what you're looking at for the expansion of Lagunitas in what did they say? It was 2004. Got to go back up to it now. Yeah, 2004, 27,000 barrels. And even 2004, they started in 93. 95, I think, is when they actually started opening and doing sales. But yeah, it's a decade to get to 27,000 barrels, and then another decade to get 79,000 more barrels, and 2004, another 2 decades, and now you're dang near to 1 million barrels worth of production. So you want to talk about having some quality. Clearly is some good quality stuff that people enjoy. And of course, the craft beer revolution, like, can't even begin to explain like how much the beer landscape has changed just even in our lifetime. And I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, that it's just night and day. That at one point, I used to go to the liquor store and I'm like, all right, I'm going to buy whatever I don't recognize. Had it, Coors Light. So I'd have to go to like Elk River, or like a larger city with a larger liquor store to be able to find something. And now you go to even to the one here in town, and it's it's not small, but it's not a very large liquor store by any means. But almost every time that I go in there, there's something that I haven't heard of, something that I haven't seen.
At least half of their coolers now are craft beers from various breweries all over the state and the surrounding states too, that fill it up. You're like, I've never heard of any of these before. You know what kind of drives me nuts a little bit? I get why they do it, and I'll explain why here in a second. But you know what really... To steal a line from Peter from Family Guy, you know what grinds my gears? What?
So many different liquor stores have now the beer cave. Don't get me wrong. I love me a beer cave. I love to have it open, have the little bit of fog roll out because of the heat difference. You go in there. Oh my God, look at all these different craft beers that are probably just in the door that I can find readily, but it looks cooler because now I'm in the refrigerator. Just a whole different experience. What bothers me, though, is that there's enough different liquor stores now that use it just as, all right, the beer cave. No, that's just where they keep the pallet of Mick Golden Light and a pallet of Busch Light and a pallet, and that's, you got to store it somewhere, and you got to have it otherwise you're going to, as an employee, you have to go back and you have to refill the case for the sliders, or you're just going to have it out on the floor where it's warm.
Especially on those type of beers. So
I get the idea, but at the same time, it just kind of bothers me. It's like, I'm always excited to go in a beer cave, and then when I go in there and it's just all super, super light water beers, I'm like,
Michelob Ultra.
Well, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we haven't even given this a lawnmower rating.
No.
Or what was the other rating we had? Not campfire rating or something?
It was something like that.
I don't remember
campfire. It was a fall rating. It was campfires.
We were kind of making, because it was something that we were definitely not going to drink mowing lawn. But if we had a campfire, like s'mores or something like that we'd have, a couple.
I think that was on the Spotting episode. Was where we kind of came up with the campfire thing. But yeah, I don't know. What would you rate this, man? It is highly balanced, like the label says, man. It is a really good IPA.
This would probably be, I need to standardize the rating now that I think about it more, because, I could say like 3 while mowing lawn. Well, is my lawn like, a little push mower lawn, or is it like 14 acres worth of yard? I would say we're probably between 2 and 3 beers per hour. Does that kind of make sense as far as a rate? Like a Coors Light is probably, you might do 5 in an hour.
Sure.
If you have the thing with you, a cooler on the lawnmower or something like that.
Agreed.
But I could definitely do, at least 2 in an hour because it's nice and smooth. It still has some flavor to it, some body, so you're not just pounding it like water.
Yeah.
It's got some highly balanced and super drinkable. It says right there on the label.
It says it. It tells you right on the label. You don't even need to listen to us read it. You can just read the label.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say somewhere between 2 and 3, because I think I could probably do 2 and maybe open a third, but I probably wouldn't finish a third in that hour, just because it is, it's not heavy, but it's definitely, there's more to it. There's some body.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
I was thinking of a song that went off that just popped in my head, but I didn't really want to sing it for you this time. So
quite the musical episode today.
Somebody
love. More Queen. Yes. Definitely is the musical episode.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. 2 to 3 beers for sure. This is definitely an IPA that you can drink after mowing the lawn after a hot, sweaty day or chopping wood like I've been doing the past couple weeks. Whatever type of outdoor activity you're doing when you're sweating your balls off, you can definitely drink 2 or 3 of these IPAs for that.
Yeah.
Most IPAs, you probably aren't going to want to do that because they are a little more alcohol content, and nothing wrong with more alcohol, but a little more alcohol content, but it doesn't quite hit you when you're hot and sweaty like a lighter beer or lager. You just, man, it tastes so refreshing and good. But this is an IPA that can be refreshing and good while you're doing that.
I completely agree. And when you get like super hoppy beers, they get to be heavy, and you get like 2 of them, and you're just like, all right, I'm done chopping wood for the day.
Yeah.
You just can't do anymore. It kind of kills the whole atmosphere.
Kind of the end of it, yeah.
But yeah, this is definitely, all right, I'm going to stop. I'm going to have this for a little bit or whatever. Let's get back after it. Let's get some more stuff done. Let's trim the hedges or, around the house or something. Get everything kind of cleaned up a little bit. I have a little bit more trim, and I mowed. Actually, my brother-in-law, Alan, came over and he was helping me mow the other day. He really likes mowing. He actually.
What a nice guy.
I know. Fantastic guy. That's why he's one of my best friends.
Apparently
Absolutely.
He's not for driving tractors in the field, but he can mow for you.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a whole different conversation that we'll get into at some point in time. But no, he really enjoys mowing lawn. He actually so our neighbors to the north, they have this really nice property on the corner. At some point in time when you come up here during the day, miss my driveway and keep going to the curve, it'll be right there on the left. And it's like, why are you mowing that much lawn? It's a big farmstead, but they're mowing like a quarter mile down on either side, and there's trees everywhere, and it's meticulously taken care of. It looks phenomenal. Alan likes it so much that he actually ran into her in Bram the other day and stopped, and he didn't know who she was, but Amanda did, just because being neighbors, and they're walking out to the car, and it's like, oh, you know who that was? And he's like, well, no. And he's like, oh, that's, so-and-so. And he's like, I have to go and compliment her on her lawn. So he literally walked away from them to go back and talk to her and be like,
chased her down.
But I love your lawn. So he really likes doing that. He's not doing landscaping or anything. He's, not trying to get into a business for that, but he has an appreciation for that. And I think he likes mowing lawn. I think he would probably, I'm kind of a once a week, but I'm going to cut a little bit shorter, not super short, but a little bit shorter. So that way I don't have to worry about it until next week. But at the beginning of the year, it grows like crazy anyway. He would probably would mow his lawn like 3 times a week.
Sure.
Just to kind of keep it at that, because he just enjoys doing it. And I enjoy doing it. It's just I just don't have the time half the time. That's really what it comes down to, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, I don't mind mowing my lawn as long as I'm on the rider.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to push mow it. I don't want to get off and fire up the weed whip. I'm just not interested in that because I can't hold my beer when I'm doing a push mower or with a weed whip. But on my rider, I've got my beer right next to me.
There you go.
With my headphones on, listening to music. So that's the type of lawn mowing I like to do.
And that's generally what I have too. I got the rider. Alan has a rider. We used, that to be able to, he came over here and we just kind of double teamed. It took like next to no time to be able to do that. And then we grabbed the weed whips, and we both have electric ones, which only a handful of years ago did I go to an electric one.
That's
my God. Even at the time I was like, okay, well, I'm going to find one for like $100 on Marketplace or something like that. And I got it. And I'm like, God, was this really worth it? And like the first time that I used it, I'm like, and I'm done. Well, that was amazing.
Yeah.
So
they are so worth it. We have one too. We have
so nice.
I think it's a 40 volt Hart one. And I bought all the attachments for it. So I have the brush cutter for
perfect.
it. I've got the little chainsaw at the end with a 10-foot extension
Oh,
pole.
for like the tree.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. You're a dang. You're an arborist over here.
Electric weed whips are worth it. I'm not sold on everything electric at this point in my life, but the electric weed whip, my God, it's so easy. It's just plug and play. The battery lasts. I have 5 acres and I mow probably half, so I've got a lot of mowing and trimming to do. It lasts for everything I need it for. So
perfect.
It's definitely worth it.
That's all you can really ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's same thing with the battery stuff, like all the hand tools. And I like the fact that there's more and more where you can get one set, like the Heartline you're talking about. You can get that, and you're like, all right, I have now like 2-3 batteries, but I can use it for 17 different things.
Everything.
You don't need to get another battery for your drill or your driver or for whatever else you're going to use. You know what I mean? You don't need to get 17 different batteries for all of the different stuff. You can just get, I'm just going to buy this and I'm going to buy one of these and it's going to be the same battery for all of the different stuff. So that's, I haven't quite gotten into that yet, but I have had that discussion that like, this is my goal, is to get into that. Got to have big goals, right?
You do.
Really high
power tools,
high level goals. Because then I can duct tape them to the vent hood that I cut a hole in to be able to. That's another story
that you can see on our Facebook page.
Exactly.
A couple of months ago. Yeah. No, I was just looking at, since we're on this weird subject of battery powered tools. I have a side by side, and not that type of tool. I have a side-by-side, lawnmowers, mowers, all the guy stuff. If you have any toys, you all know what I'm talking about. But, you got to grease that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was just thinking the other day, I wonder if they make electric, the little greasers.
Oh, grease gun?
Yeah, instead of just trying to pump it up, and then they pop off sometime, Well, I found one.
Oh, perfect.
Electric grease gun that uses a 20-volt battery. And I'm like, well, hell yeah. And it's a Hart-branded one.
There you go.
So I'm a Hart guy, I guess, for some reason.
You throw the 40-volt in there.
That'll pump some grease. The Hart tools, for as much as I use them for, they work just fine for me. It's like you get them at your local Walmart. It's not the cheapest line they have. It's the better line, I guess, if Walmart has a better line, but it works. They work fine for me. Yeah, they work great for me. So
yeah, I mean, you can get like DeWalt or I don't even know, Milwaukee or something like that, but unless you're doing full framing or anything like that, like it depends on what you're doing.
Right.
I guess that's the way that I would put it. It's not necessarily cheap. It's just more of a matter of you don't need it to be as rugged.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Like Milwaukee and DeWalt, if you work construction full time, you probably better get those because I believe they all have lifetime warranty on all their tools. You just send it back to them. They send you a new one or repair it. Away you go,
I think a lot of the ones my brother has are Milwaukee because he's a diesel mechanic and works on garbage trucks for a massive thing down in the cities. And he's got all of the different attachments and all the different stuff. And I don't know, I had him replace something on my car the other day or whatever. And he's just like, click, 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 but he uses it all day, every day. Yeah. And so he has to get something that's going to be good for all day, every day. Yeah. I'm good with I don't even know what I got. Works. To be honest, I don't even remember. It's orange and it works really well. So
whatever gets the job done. Well, yeah.
So what else you got, Shawn?
I don't really have much anything for this one. I would say I think get yourself some Lagunitas if you're out there and you see it. It's really good. We highly recommend this one. I mean, most of our episodes we recommend what we drink. We haven't had too many beers on our shows that have been kind of iffy. This one's on the higher end. For sure, go get you some. And keep in mind, this company started on the stove of 30 gallons to over 1 million barrels today. So, I mean, heck, what does that tell you about this company and the quality beer that it produces?
Good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would echo the same sentiments. Highly recommend it for sure. But yeah, that's our story of Lagunitas with the Lagunitas IPA out of California. And definitely get yourself some. And until next time,
we'll see. Cheers.
Cheers.